Hello, hello. Jay Vix with another episode of Meet the Experts today. I love doing Meet the Experts. This is like episode 54, I think, 55, something like that. 54. And what Meet the Experts is, if this is your first time seeing it, it's just a really cool way to get your name, your products, your services, just to put the spotlight on you, the business owner, for 20, 30 minutes. And then we give you that video. So you can do whatever you want with it. It's yours to keep. But a lot of people like to chop those up and run it on social media, use it on their website. Usually these make a good FAQ section. So at the end of today's episode, I will come back and I'll tell you how you can be a guest on Meet the Experts. Today's episode, really, really interesting episode. And this, we've changed the way we've gotten guests recently, and then we changed it again. But Scott was brought to me through my friend Chris Tracy, who's looking for some guests for us right now. And when we initially talked, it was like we were both kind of geeking out over like podcasting and video and different things. And he's, I think, cut from the same cloth as I am. So Scott has a really cool podcast and a really cool website that he's going to tell you all about today. So without further ado, let me bring Scott up on the screen here. Scott, how are you, buddy?
Doing great, Jay. Glad to be on the show, man.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. I was looking forward to this one because I think kind of the stuff you told me about what you do was just really like, I don't know, just fascinating, and you have a good history with it. So I'll let you go. Tell us a little bit more about Scott and what you do.
Well, I guess the biggest thing we're known for, my wife and I are, as a team, dating and relationship coaches for both men and women. We've been doing this before the movie Hitch. So back in 2005, I started, and I met my wife just a few months later. And interestingly enough, we were among the OGs of podcasting. The company I worked for at the time, the tech directors had discovered podcasting and did a company podcast. And I thought that was really cool. I'd never heard the term before. So I said to my girlfriend, who has now been my wife for almost 17 years, hey, let's do a podcast. And we started doing a show called X and Y on the Fly, which still exists, but far and away, the Mountaintop has exceeded it in terms of downloads and how many men listen to that show. And it ended up being number one in North America in the self-help category on iTunes back in the day. And we didn't even realize it. We had to go to like a meetup group, and people were like, you guys don't even know. I'm like, well, no, we don't have Apple devices. And they'd start laughing. So 17 years later, still podcasting, still helping men and women all over the world find love. And of course, the Mountaintop Podcast for Men, great guests, rock solid discussion for men of character, whether they're married already or looking to get into a relationship with the right woman. The focus has always been on high character, high achieving men who really want the most out of life. None of the pickup artists, not your bedpost kind of stuff. These are for the real guys with real character.
I love that. And, I was going to ask you, talk about some of your main products and services and who they help. Now, for the podcast now, do you also have products or services, or is it just like, is the podcast just the service and that's how you help men?
Oh man, I coach men all over the world.
Okay.
They come to me with unique situations or to go from good to great. Very few of the guys who are like 35, 40-year-old virgins come to me, although it's known to happen. And I have respect for everybody who comes to me because I know how hard it is for men to find help, to actually ask for help sometimes.
Yeah.
We like to be all macho about it. But one of the things I've learned from coaching 3 different Navy SEALs in person is those guys are information gathering machines, even as they're considered to be some of the most badass, manly men on earth. Yeah. And that even personally challenged me, like, who am I kidding? I mean, if I'm saying I'm too cool to find a way to get better at anything in life, really what I'm doing is I'm hamstringing myself from my own development, perhaps permanently.
Absolutely.
And I'm denying myself the ability to get power from someone else. I mean, I'm no Navy SEAL, right? And I finally asked one of these guys, why are you guys hiring me? It's like, well, we don't need you to be a Navy SEAL, but you're one of the best in the world at teaching men how to attract women and to get along with women. And I am taking that power from you. Blank, kind of like the Highlander, except I don't kill you at the end. And I was like, I joked with him, you probably could kill me 6 ways with a ballpoint pen. He goes, more than 6, but who's counting? But it changed my life. And indeed, the guys who come to me are all high character guys. I've always, I don't publish who I work with, but I always told guys who were incoming when they asked kind of guys I work with, if I ever held a cocktail party and you were invited, you would be amazed by the you were keeping and probably a few autographs. So yeah, high character guys, good guys. I also have a whole catalog of downloadable programs for guys who are the download and listen. Those and they answer almost every question on every topic you could possibly think of over been on various lists, stuff like that. And of course, the podcast is like where a lot of people find out about us. That in our newsletter list. Several 100,000 guys have been on the newsletter list over the years. And one of the things I've always striven to do is publish content instead of just a sales pitch every day, and I think people really appreciate that. So we try to under promise and over deliver around here. And I think we've done a good job because the staying power says everything. We've been at this for a long time.
I'll tell you, I love that. You said something early on there. You said a lot in there that I wanted to just kind of like take from. One of the things that you said right off the bat, Navy SEALs would come to you because you're the expert and they wanted to take some of that from you, and learn. I mean, look, we look at the best athletes in the world. They still have coaches. Tiger Woods has a coach.
For sure.
Baseball, the entire baseball team has different coaches. Football teams, there's 20 coaches with an NFL team, more, and so the coaches, the relationship experts, the digital marketers, right? We don't necessarily have to be, we're not going to be always better, but if we can lead and instruct and give that power, like you said, give that power, then we can be very effective at what we do. And it's you can never be too good for somebody to watch and help mold you and make you better. You know what I mean?
I live in San Antonio, Texas.
Right.
And just this past week, as we're recording this, my beloved San Antonio Spurs got the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah. And
the kid this year who got drafted number 1 is considered perhaps to be not just a generational talent, but perhaps the biggest prospect in NBA history, maybe bigger than LeBron. Okay.
I heard that. Yeah. Yeah.
And the guy's name is Victor Wembanyama. He's 7'5" and 19 years old.
Yeah. So
the guy is already 2 feet taller than everybody else, which would, I don't know, man. If I was 2 feet taller, I think I'd have an ego. Okay. And I remember being 19 years old and just thinking I knew everything and trying to impress everybody. Hey, y'all watch this and squeal wheels. And this kid has gotten nothing but attention. And he's an amazing basketball player.
Absolutely.
Basically, he's one of the tallest centers in the NBA coming in, and he's got the skills of Chris Paul at point guard. It's just insanely impossible. And all you see from this kid is humility and gratitude.
Yeah.
He walked into San Antonio. The first thing he did was, I want to meet the legends. And he just sat at their feet at dinner. They're all in cargo shorts, Tim Duncan, never known for being a fashion icon. And he's like, this is such a privilege for me to come here and learn from these guys so I can get better. And people are just in awe of this kid, and they like him more and they have more respect for him more because he came and said, I want to get better. I still have more to do. He didn't come here and go, all right, yay me, bow down and worship at the altar of the greatest prospect who's ever been in the NBA. And people are saying, not only would this guy have been the greatest prospect in the history of basketball strictly because of his natural gifts and his talent, but my gosh, he's the whole package. He's this young guy with this sense of maturity and focus. and humility and gratitude. And I mean, where does that leave the rest of us? You know, it's like when we see, I had guys come to me and they meet all these beautiful women who maybe have an Instagram profile or something. And these women are very arrogant and full of themselves because guys are fawning all over. And, you know, there are women who are A-list celebrities, supermodels. I mean, I actually, you know, am acquaintances with one of the women who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated back when that was still a thing, you know.
Yeah.
And she is the sweetest, kind-hearted, most giving, charitable human ever. And she's been on the front of Sports Illustrated.
Right.
So what is the excuse for all of these college student girls to think that they're so full of themselves? What's my excuse?
Right.
As a man to think like I'm too good for anybody to teach. You know what it is? It's fear-based.
Yes.
And it's self-protection mechanism because you don't want to be found out, and it ties into imposter syndrome and all that. Well,
that's what I was thinking.
I like the guys who come and say, they challenge me. They go, all right, buddy, you think you're world class? You think you're so good with women? Teach me. Let's do this. I want to come out here and take it all. I have a guy coming this weekend from the Bay Area who's an extremely impressive guy. And he's excited. He's like, you know, I'm going to come here and this part of my life is going to finally be handled along with the rest of my life. For a lot of men, the whole idea of succeeding with women, not picking the wrong ones, not just being clouded by beauty vision, but getting a woman who's the whole package, even believing she exists in a world where masculinity is vilified and men have become scared of women because they're just afraid if they say hello, you know, they'll be dragged off in chains or something.
Right.
Just for a lot of really, really sharp, high achieving, good dudes, this is the last frontier of their life. It is getting excellent with women. And it's a joy and a privilege to have been called to help those guys do that. And I'm grateful every day for that opportunity.
I love that. I'm going to come back to that in a couple questions for sure.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up Wembayana. I was watching just his, you know, I had heard about him several times prior to, and then, and I don't want to go down the path of him, but I like what you said there about.
I'm game if you want to. I'm a Spurs fan.
I'm a Knicks fan, so I'm jealous of everybody that has a winning record. But
they've already renamed the arena Wemby Stadium, which I think
is that the new thing? Wemby Stadium. But watching him shoot 3-pointers is just like he's going to be something else. I can't wait to watch him play. I'm going to be in awe. Just like. I'm going to be great. I feel grateful that I'm going to get the opportunity to watch this kid play. So I think it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Hey, all right. You talked about a couple of things, like you had a guy coming in from the Bay Area and you worked with some Navy SEALs. I'm going to go a little bit deeper down that path for a quick second. So has there ever been, everybody has testimonials and wins and everybody likes to show those off because you want to give yourself that sense of credibility and validation that people say nice things about you. Has any of your clients ever said something that was so nice or so profound that if I say, can you share a customer win or testimonial, that you're going to be like, yes, got one?
Oh boy. Do I have to talk about one? It's been a long time, man. I have had 3 different guys I've worked with become professional dating and relationship coaches themselves afterwards.
Wow.
You know, I mean, if you want to talk in terms of objectivity or subjectivity or just the nice things they said to me, I get nice things said to me all the time. I also get nasty things said to me all the time. I don't take either of them all that seriously. I'm just grateful.
Right.
But we've had guys come here who are broken from having been abused in their first marriages. Not only do they get their power back, they go back and they meet the right woman and they're still living happily with her. I've had guys who have picked the wrong woman over and over again, finally get that sorted out and start picking out the right ones. Objectively speaking, and, you know, guys who meet the woman in their life, get married, I never hear from them again because they're happy now, you know. I've had 5 different professional cheerleaders, guys meeting like Falcons cheerleaders. One guy saw the weather gal on the weekends, who are always the young, upstart chicks, and
Right.
he asked her out, and she said yes, and he's going out with the cute weather girl on the weekends in a major league city. One guy met a gymnast who defected from an Eastern European country to California, dated her.
Wow.
I had one guy who went out with the leading lady on a television show you've heard of and decided he didn't want the second date. I've had several guys come to me saying, I want to date celebrities. All 3 were successful. All 3 said, I've had enough after their second celebrity. I just want a kindergarten teacher or, a cute little flight attendant. I don't want to be Mr. So-and-so, So yeah, I mean, I've had guys come to me with huge challenges, physical challenges, health issues, where they wrote off their ability to attract women and it just reinvented them. Guys have overcome extreme fears. I mean, guys who are confident in so many areas of life except this one. Right. And then they go and they realize women aren't so scary. It's just everything you've been heard during social media. My wife and I both are survivors from first marriages to very deeply clinically psychotic people who ruined our lives respectively. So we do get a lot of refugees from those situations who come to us because they can relate to us. Sure. And we know exactly how to help lift them out of that. And that has been, I can't count how many people have come to us in that situation. A lot of guys are really struggling with what it means to be masculine in a world where they feel like it's just under attack, when really it's not. Right. Really what's happening is we're being told our masculinity is toxic and really masculinity is virtuous. And the same people are trying to trick us into not being masculine anymore, want to appropriate the masculine virtue for themselves and shove us down, when really if we're just providers, protectors, and the heroes that we're designed to be, who want to just make the world right and be defenders, then the people have a problem with this. They can stick it. A lot of guys come, they just need to learn what I call authentic confidence, because those two are linearly connected. Until you're real, you can't be confident about much, because confidence is belief in your own competence. And if you don't even know what you're about, what you stand for, who even the hell you are, it's going to be hard to believe in your ability to accomplish much of anything. And, people say, fake it till you make it and just be yourself. And that's just such frustratingly useless advice. And we help guys in very practical ways to get down to it. That's what we're about, Jay. None of this woo-woo, airy-fairy stuff. I mean, I'm sure some of that's really cool and works. But I think a lot of people come to us, they just want to know, and they just want to know what to do. They just want to know how to sort all this out. They want practical, real-world, actionable steps to get what they want out of this. And we don't BS people. We just talk about what works, and that's why we're still here.
I love it. I was in a group recently. It's probably a year ago now, so it's not that recent, but it's still fairly recently. And I was in a group, and it was a coaching group, and it was a digital marketing thing that I was a part of, or I still am a part of. And the person who was speaking at the time said something that'll stick with me forever. And I think you just alluded to it. It's like, we hear so much about, teaching a man to fish, right? So he can eat for his lifetime. Yeah. He's like, sometimes we just want the fish. Can somebody just give us a fish right now? You can still teach me how to fish, but can I just get a fish, right? And it's kind of like that same thing. I need that practical, actionable advice so that I can just kind of at least get to where I want to be. And then I can work on that. But I just need some help now where I'm at, right? And I need an answer now. I don't want to wait till I go through everything. And I thought it was so profound. I'm like, yeah, the more that I can help people by just giving them the fish and then letting them keep coming back to learn how to fish, like the better off I'll be, if I can work in that analogy. It sounds like that's what you're doing a lot of, which is awesome.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
I think if you come to people and say, this is going to take a year before you see any results, but hang with me, they'll be gone. Right. Our attention spans are too short. Sure. It's amazing to watch a guy give a guy the toolkit to go out and get some success quickly. So he's like, wow, now I'm all in. Yeah. Right. It's like when you learn how to play guitar, you teach your incoming guitar player how to do a G, C, D, chord, they know 3 fingerings on a fretboard. They can play 100 songs now. And they're like,
Right.
wow, I'm a guitar player, but they're not,
quick win.
they're not, Eddie Van Halen yet. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
And a lot of times what'll happen, especially us as guys, is we want to play. The first thing we want to do when we pick up a guitar is play Stairway to Heaven. I was a lacrosse player when I was a kid, and all the newbie lacrosse players, we all just wanted to learn that little trick where you snap up the lacrosse ball with and sidearm shots, stuff that are really cool, but you'll never use in the real world or just aren't practical. Sure. So guys will come to me and go, all right, how do I approach a supermodel walking 10 dogs at the same time down Fifth Avenue in New York in rush hour and get her attention? I go, I don't know. I've never had to do that before, but maybe you should start off with the cute chick sitting next to you in Psych 101 in college that you're still afraid to talk to. And she's sitting right there.
Yeah.
But I'd have to do that. That, that the loftier the goal, the more you consider this out of reach, the better the excuse you can tell yourself for not having been there. Like, I had a guy come to me and he wanted to take my program where I basically mentor them and help them become coaches on their own. Well, what's your first goal? I want to be the next Tony Robbins. Well, if that's the first step, you're going to need a helicopter. You can't just take a step. You need a little win to get. I mean, I still remember the first person who bought my book. I still remember the first person who signed up for my newsletter. I mean, I celebrate those small wins on the way to the big ones. So, yeah, I mean, when people come to me, sure, you give them a fish. But man, I'll tell you what one of the most pathetic things is in the world of dating advice is a guy who comes to me and he just wants to paint by numbers instead of being an artist. Right. Okay. He wants the easy button for everything and he wants the done for you solution, because then you're always dependent. You're always going to be dependent. You're not going to be authentic and you're not going to be really confident about anything. So it'll be like, all right, well, I'm afraid of women. Well, here's why you shouldn't be afraid of women. All right. So how do I approach her? All right, well, here's how you approach her. All right, I've approached her. Now, what do I say to her? All right, well, here's what you say to her. All right, well, she said hello back. How do I get her number? Here's how you get her number. You see where I'm going with this? Finally, one day I just say, what do you want me to do? Have sex with her, make babies, and end up in retirement with your future wife for you? I mean, there's some point where you're going to have to take the huggies off and man up, Go. And that's when, but I think indeed it's great. It's proof of concept to have a guy come here and then boom, here's a simple way for you to get better than you were yesterday, today. Right. Then they're all in. And then 3 to 4 months from now, they come to me often, you're talking about testimonials and they say things like, I didn't even have this vision for me. I'm good at seeing the light at the end of the tunnel because I've done this a few times. Sure. I often have a bigger vision for the guys who come to me than the guys do themselves. And it's fun to watch them realize it for themselves.
So, and that's a perfect lead into my next question, which I always call the earned it, learned it, improved your authority. Like, how did you become a relationship expert or, coach and get into this in the first place? Like, how did that develop and happen?
It's funny because coaching is one of those things where you don't need a certification or an education. You just kind of hang a shingle. Yeah. And I remember about 20 years ago when I first started, there were 2 kinds of people out there trying to do this. There were people who were like clinical psychologists in the mental health field and people who were just like really, really good at marketing themselves. Right. Okay. And the people who were just really, really good at marketing themselves were crushing it. Like your David D'Angelo's, Eben Pagans of the world. This guy's not a psychiatrist. He would admit it, but he was really good at marketing and he had some really good advice, just anecdotally from living real life. Sure. And I remember the people who were clinical psychiatrists who'd gone to school for 7-8 years were so frustrated by this. Okay. And it was funny because I remember, I'm not going to mention names, but there was one lady who would take dating advice questions. And the old adage about, when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. Right. People would come to her and ask simple, basic questions like, I find it really, I'm really shy and I just, I don't know how to talk to guys. Or every time how can I go out on a date and have it turn into a second date? And everything was a psychiatric problem. You're probably depressed or under too much stress, or, you probably have daddy issues. I mean, she was medicalizing everything that was social because she's a psychiatrist. Okay.
Right.
But it really, sometimes you're not sick in the head. You really just don't have a whole lot of experience talking to women. So here's the interesting thing about that. I actually get excited when people ask me about my background and my experience, because strangely enough, my undergraduate work and my postgraduate work all were in a combination of majors that add up to coaching. And
Interesting.
My first career was coaching, not by name, but coaching at-risk kids to make something of their life when they were headed in the wrong direction. And after that, I went into the business world for a while, which really helped me grow up and mature. And I just really missed giving back like that and helping people grow. I don't want to heal sick people. I don't think I'm so good at that. My sister-in-law just became a therapist, and I can't even. I can't. I mean, but I love taking people who are struggling to get the answers and the results they want, standing by them and helping them get those results. That to me is energizing. That makes the world a better place. So how did I personally get there? Well, I told you about my background, but what happened was, after this ridiculously painful divorce back in 2003, I looked in the mirror, and I'd been, I knew the term gaslighting before the term gaslighting was cool. Okay. I mean,
right.
So I looked in the mirror. I said, everybody told you this wasn't your fault. You're the best husband, best father, but I got kicked to the curb after I did everything right. I don't like that victimhood feeling. I mean, we're anti-victim around here. I mean, Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine, talking about Navy SEALs, sponsors our podcast. They came to us. So, I mean, this is the anti-victimhood zone around here. This is, man up and own it. And that's what I did. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to figure out women. They say it can't be done. I'm going to figure it out. And then when I figure it out, I'm going to become the guy who's attractive to women. And lo and behold, it all worked. And my friends started saying, how is a guy like you bringing women like that to stuff, right? And even women I would go out with, when I decided to kind of put them in the just be friend zone, and maybe we weren't going to be husband and wife someday, they're like, you did that really right. You should write a book for men or something. And I remember I was a subscriber to David D'Angelo's Interviews with Dating Gurus discs. And I had a couple little gals that I was dating, and every once in a while we'd go on a road trip or whatever. And I said, hey, and they would ask me, how have you, did your dad really raise you right? Because you're really treating me so wonderfully. And I just, this is going great. I said, well, you really want to know? I'll let you listen to one of these discs that I listened to. And I did that with two different women. They both said the same thing to me. They went, you're better than him.
Yeah.
So after everybody tells you you're better than David D'Angelo, and which I mean, it probably isn't true. I mean, I owe a lot to Eben, because in February 2007, I was the guy on his Interviews with Dating Gurus disc, which is a lot like being a stand-up comedian and getting on the Tonight Show when the year is 2007. I mean, I owe Eben a lot for that. But it was just funny that these women would say that. And of course, they're a biased opinion. I mean, they're sitting next to me and they like me. But, when enough people say you should write a book, or you're better than this guy who's the best in the world, you're thinking maybe, perhaps you're not an imposter. Maybe you are as good as they are at doing this stuff. And I've never really felt like I had bad advice. I always felt like I've had really, really good original thoughts, because a lot of the same stuff gets rehashed over and over again.
Yeah.
And talk about what works. But the secret sauce has always been, you know what, Jay? I really genuinely love female human beings. I just really like women. A lot of the guys nowadays, these MGTOW and these red pill guys, they're just adversarial against women, and they get millions of followers. And the guys who embrace the toxic masculinity, you can't call me toxic masculinity, because I want to be toxic. All of that stuff is just insecurity to me, and it doesn't make you happy. My wife loves men. I love women. And guess what? We sort of love each other. To me, that's magical. Not enough people teach it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have a big audience of men who agree with that. You would
Right.
think that that's so basic. Okay. But most people want to they want an easy button, and they want to be able to do that while really disliking the people who aren't attracted to them. And they never want to look in the mirror and realize the reason why the women aren't attracted to me is because I don't like them. So they're not going to like me back. That would involve too much introspection. And those aren't the guys I work with. I work with the guys who figured it out, and they just want to get this handled and get it right. And they mean it.
That's a killer niche, like to find, like when you said that there's not that many. All right, we got a couple questions left. Real easy ones, real quick. It's been great. 30 minutes goes by really, really fast when you get into a couple questions. But this one's good. If you could in one or two sentences, and you might say, and there's a whole lot more after that. But I like to kind of slow it down and start winding it down with the question of, like, Scott, just tell me something you're thankful for, like something really big that you're thankful for in your life.
I'm just thankful for, I almost died at birth. Ooh. So every hour of every day is a bonus. One of my high school peers, we reconnected on Facebook years later. I'm older than I look. I'm 56 years old. Okay, and he said, to this day, I've never met anyone who loves being alive more than you. And I thought that was such an amazing compliment. So yeah, I'm that guy. So I have a lot of gratitude.
That's amazing.
By the way, gratitude revolutionized my faith. Instead of thinking God owed me something, one day I realized, humility, God created me, not vice versa.
Right.
So you know what? I think I'm just going to be thankful. I think I'm just going to shut up and be humble. And I've been at spiritual peace since.
That's awesome. I'm so glad I got to hear that today. It came at a good time for me too. All right. I'm going to give you just a minute or two. Just want one. Mm-hmm. I want maybe in every business. I know I hear objections or frequently asked questions all the time. Like, people ask the same thing over and over and over again. When somebody's evaluating buying your product, your coaching, your service, is there any question that you just find yourself answering over and over again that you could kind of answer once on video now and have it forever?
I think almost everybody who comes to me has become a little jaded because they haven't found the success yet.
Got it.
And when I tell them, after I interview and I talk to everybody, for about as long as you and I have been talking, and I know who's going to succeed. I know who I can get results with, and I know who needs to maybe do some more of their journey before they come do coaching.
Got
it. And I've never been wrong. I've had a couple guys who lied to me about a couple things that would have made it sketchy, but we powered through it. The biggest ledge I have to talk both men and women we coach off of is they're really, really concerned they're going to be the first person who ever fails at this. So it's a lot like skydiving. I'd love to get this part of my life handled. I want to conquer my fear of heights. I want to experience this thrill that all my friends have told me about. But what if I pull the chute and nothing happens and I splat and I die? Well, that would be bad. Well, I'm like a skydiving instructor who's done like 2,347 flights and jumps, and I have dinner plans. I know you'll be all right. So a lot of times I have to kind of tell people I believe that they're going to get the results, and it's time for them to believe they're going to get results.
That's big.
Because a lot of people, they've gone through this cycle of frustration, and they think to themselves, here's the crux of it. Ready? Here's the mic drop. I'm going to work with you for 3, 4, 6 months. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to feel even worse about myself than if I wouldn't have done it at all. And that's just such a fear-based mentality. And I just encourage people to go for it.
Scott, thank you so much for being a guest today. The podcast is Mountaintop Podcast, www.mountaintoppodcast. It's been along the bottom.
.com.
The strip.com. And dude, thank you so much for coming on and talking about that. I think it's really probably a topic that needs to be discussed maybe more out in this world. And,
for sure. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Sure.
Well, it's been great to get to know you, and I'll talk to you again really soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jay.
Awesome. All right. That was Scott McKay. Really just a great time talking about just relationships and men, and how men can get women, and just the important thing that goes underneath it, and really getting to learn more about him and his podcast. So if you would like to be a guest on Meet the Experts, doesn't cost you anything. Just come on. I'll interview you. We'll have a good time. We'll chat for 35 minutes or so. Just go to www.meettheexpertspodcast.com. And remember, I call this the anti-podcast. It's not the traditional sense podcast. This is really just a video creation where we get you on video, because you know what? A lot of business owners are terrified of video, and they shouldn't be. It's really not that hard. So, look, if you want to get some video content for your business, for your website, for your social media, just let's make this your starting point, right? We love giving value in advance. We love giving you that fish first, right? We'll give you the video fish, and then we can talk to you about other ways that marketing might work in your business. Until next time, which our next episode is going to be coming up really, really soon. Just sit tight, follow us on social, on all the socials at Meet the Experts Podcast, and we will talk.